Welcome back, true believers and all you spectacular Spidey fans, to another very exciting episode of Marvel's Spider-Man 2 101. And with only less than 30 days to go until Marvel's Spider-Man 2 fully releases worldwide, the overall hype levels for the game have never been higher. However, if this brand new info for the game is to be believed, then I'm pretty sure the Marvel's Spider-Man 2 hype will increase even further. Where in this video, I'm mainly going to be discussing some fairly recent information that was revealed about the game's side missions, as well as some pretty major teases to Spider-Man's wider rogues gallery, which may or may not appear in the final game. So if you want to fully board this hype train with me, then definitely be sure to thwip that like button and subscribe to the channel for any major Marvel Spider-Man 2 content in the future. So to kick things off with this article from Games Radar is that Marvel's Spider-Man 2 has some quote-unquote really cool surprises in its side content. You should play the sequel's optional side missions. Whereas this information was originally unveiled by Daniel Baptista, who I was not only fortunately able to meet during the Marvel Spider-Man 2 preview event, but Daniel himself was actually able to interview Jacinda Chu from Insomniac Games, who, if you don't know, is the senior art director working on Marvel's Spider-Man 2. And if you want to see Daniel's entire interview with Jacinda, then I will make sure to leave a link to it in the description below. But for the case of this video, the article states that the developer of Marvel's Spider-Man 2 has made quote-unquote a big effort with the sequel's side content, which includes more narrative than ever before. In an interview with the movie podcast, Jacinda Chu encouraged future Marvel Spider-Man 2 players to play optional missions to see quote-unquote some really cool surprises. According to Chu, Insomniac has quote-unquote added a lot of great side content this time around that adds even more narrative to the game. And as Jacinda elaborated further, is that we've added a lot of great side content. One of the things I know people love about our game is just the amount of narrative and story that we have in the world. So we've definitely made a big effort and pushed to put a lot of narrative into the side content. So I would tell people to please play those optional missions, because you will see some really cool surprises. Where in fact, if we look back at the recently released overview trailer, we not only see a wide variety of side missions that are taking place within the newly updated Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man app, which will feature missions that do revolve around either Peter, Miles, or both of the Spider-Men, but we also got some quick glimpses at what appears to be some of Spider-Man's biggest foes, which may be reserved for the center stage in regards to the game's multitude of side missions. Rather than incorporating them into the game's main narrative, considering that it seems like the core story of Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is primarily going to focus on the big three antagonists, with that of the Lizard, Kraven, and Venom, similar to what we previously saw within Spider-Man PS4, where in the case of Tombstone, which was easily the best side mission throughout the entire game, even though we did initially encounter him as Mary Jane during one of the game's main story missions, the only way that we were actually able to fight him as Spider-Man is by going through his entire side mission arc. And this certainly made it all the more meaningful for the player in terms of narrative engagement, which is exactly what we already saw within Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, where every single one of the side missions within that game felt a lot more personal to Miles and his story. So seeing that Insomniac have once again clearly learned some valuable lessons from their previous Spider-Man games and are making sure to incorporate and fully polish those assets within Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is showing just how well refined the experience is shaping up to be. But now moving on to the meat of this situation is who exactly within Spider-Man's rogues gallery will we be facing off against during these side missions. And no, I'm not only talking about seeing Mysterio and the Prowler appear within the overview trailer, but rather take a closer look at the icons that we see appear in the main map, where alongside of the green eye icon as well as the Prowler's mask obviously being in relation to Mysterio and the Prowler, we also see a couple symbols that look to be in the shape of an orange rock as well as a red flame, where if I had to make an educated guess, I would say that the orange rock is trying to take the shape of a large chunk of granite. And for the case of the red fire symbol, we actually see quite a few enemies within this overview trailer sporting this insignia, which not only fully confirms a brand new enemy faction, but also implies that there should be a bigger Spider-Man villain out there leading that group of enemies. And based on everything that we've seen and heard about Marvel Spider-Man 2 so far, especially knowing how much more impactful the side missions are shaping up to be, I would bet my 19 inches of Venom that these two villains that are being teased within Marvel Spider-Man 2 are none other than the Sandman and Molten Man.
Is that an Oscar with my name on it? Yeah, I was thinking Emmy, but spiders can't be choosers.
Looking for this, webhead? but ain't my old pal, Flint Marco, the Sandman. You know, every time we play together, I end up digging sand out of my costume for weeks.
To start things off with Flint Marco, aka the Sandman, it wouldn't be surprising in the least if he was to be featured in Marvel's Spider-Man 2, considering that he was already shown as an Easter egg within one of the collectible backpacks in Spider-Man PS4, and it's confirmed that Peter has already fought him in the past. But alongside of that obvious fact, if we actually stop and take a more in-depth look at the Digital Deluxe Edition trailer, we do see this blink and you'll miss it shot of Spider-Man, who was once again fighting the enemies with the fire insignia, is directly fighting in an area that has been completely encompassed with sand, which at the same time could easily be a construction site that has gone under attack by this brand new enemy faction, but I'm pretty sure all of us diehard Spider-Man fans are a whole lot smarter at this point, and simply imagining what a full-scale Sandman boss fight would look like within Marvel's Spider-Man 2, where we would not only be able to actually fight Sandman as both Peter and Miles, but also imagining what the size of Sandman would be like while fully running on the PlayStation 5 would simply be a dream come true for any Spider-Man gamer out there. And besides Mysterio himself already being one of my most wanted villains to appear within Marvel Spider-Man 2, Sandman is without a doubt right next to him on that list. Now moving on to this fire symbol that we keep seeing, is that we do get a slight tease as to what exactly these missions entail. Whereas you can see during this part of the overview trailer, is that Peter is heading straight towards one of these fire missions that's titled Where Have You Been?, where the objective is to help Chief Clark. Where, if I had to guess, I would say that Chief Clark is one of the main firemen that's working at the New York Fire Department. And based on this symbol and this brand new enemy faction, is that there might be a whole lot of arson going on within Marvel's New York. And Spider-Man is likely going to try and do his best to put these fires out. Now, for the case of this brand new enemy faction themselves, the only two main fire-based Spider-Man villains that I can think of directly relate to Butane and Molten Man. Now, for the case of Butane, he's actually one of the far more deep-cut Spider-Man villains within his rogues gallery. But if you have kept up to date with other Spider-Man media, you would have seen that he's actually going to be making an appearance within the upcoming Spider-Man cartoon with Spider-Man Freshman Year. And trust me, if Insomniac is already fully capable of including Screwball within Spider-Man PS4, then I don't think it would be that far-fetched for them to include a Z-list villain like Butane within Marvel's Spider-Man 2. But for me, I would much rather like to see their own unique twist on a character like Molten Man within their Spider-Man universe. Similar to how Molten Man within the Spectacular Spider-Man cartoon was actually Liz Allen's brother of Mark Allen instead of the original character of Molten Man with Mark Raxton, which in my opinion is actually my personal favorite version of the Molten Man character. And seeing how Insomniac are already taking several liberties within Marvel's Spider-Man 2, with the biggest one being of them confirming that the traditional Venom host of Eddie Brock is not going to be the Venom that we see within Marvel's Spider-Man 2, I have no doubt that Insomniac's writers know exactly what they're doing. And if that means that we end up receiving new and fresh takes for all these Spider-Man characters and their respective stories, then I for one am all for it. Now, the last major villain that was teased for Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is actually one that's a pretty massive spoiler for the game's story. So if you want to experience Marvel's Spider-Man 2 by going in completely blind, then now's your chance to either click off the video or just skip ahead once I'm done talking about this particular villain. And believe me when I say that this is an absolutely massive villain, and my jaw pretty much dropped straight to the floor once I knew exactly what Insomniac was referencing. So during my hands-on gameplay with Marvel's Spider-Man 2, which I can't show you within this B-roll footage, is that I set out as Peter to track down the Lizard directly after that PlayStation Showcase demo. And during this sequence, Peter followed the Lizard to the sewers where he actually found an underground lab that Kurt Connors was using. And in this lab, we do see a lot of scientific projects that Kurt is working on, but crazily enough, we also see what appears to be a piece of the meteorite that the symbiote came to Earth on. And with this meteorite, not only do we see a sequence where the symbiote, which is currently on Peter, is actually trying to leave Peter's body and go back to the meteorite, but right on the front of the meteorite itself, we do see a symbol which clearly resembles a giant red spiral. And for any of you who have kept up with the recent Venom comics, you would know full well that that giant red spiral is clearly a sign directly relating to Null, who was the god of the symbiotes. And if these Insomniac Spider-Man games didn't didn't already prove that these titles are made by the fans for the fans, then I honestly don't know what will. The fact that Insomniac directly included a null Easter egg in Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is absolutely insane. However, I think fully introducing null within the story of Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is just a bit too ambitious for this game's main narrative. And instead, I mainly think that Insomniac is going to be focusing on the symbiote and how that alien creature ends up bonding with Peter to then later attach itself to another host and become Venom. And if anything, I think that this nod to null is simply an Easter egg for die-hard Venom fans. But who knows, if we somehow actually end up seeing null appear within Marvel's Spider-Man 2 or the inevitable Marvel's Spider-Man 3, that would just be flat out crazy. But nonetheless, it looks like we're just gonna have to find out for ourselves by the time we actually play Marvel's Spider-Man 2 on October 20th. In the end, everybody, Spider-Man has an absolutely gigantic rogues gallery, and knowing exactly who we're already going to be facing off against within the game, and seeing who has now been teased to be featured in Marvel's Spider-Man 2, I genuinely believe what Jacinda said, where we are definitely going to be expecting a whole lot more surprises by the time we play the full game. And I, for one, just can't wait to find out exactly what they are. But until that time comes, everybody, that's the video I have for all you today, and please let me know all your thoughts in the comments section down below. What do you think of these villain teases for Marvel's Spider-Man 2? And besides the villains I've already listed, which other villains would you want to fight with in the game? It could be another character like the Beetle, Morbius, or potentially anyone else. Let me know what you think, and be sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you did enjoy, and for more Marvel Spider-Man 2 videos like this in the future. Thank you all so much for watching, stay spectacular Spidey fans, and until next time, peace out.